And I'm going to start out with Grant is going to give us a little bit of a slide presentation about some of the things that at least he and Kaley did the first week. And then Kaley will give on the second week, and then maybe I'll tie it up with a few comments. So, Grant, I'll let you get started.
Well, I really don't know what you guys are here to hear. Besides that, we went to Kenya. Um, we, my part is kind of a tricky part because I have to talk about the part where we just kind of hung out with our friends, didn't really do missions. So, unfortunately, I don't have the as interesting stuff to talk about. It was interesting for us. It was fun for us, but it won't mean as much to you. So, but we wanted to at least let you know that we didn't go over there entirely just for missions. Both Kayla and I had friends over there, so we decided we'd show a little bit about that and maybe a little bit about Kenya. So, Kenya is in Africa. It is east side of Africa, one of the eastern countries, and it's technically a third world country. So it is definitely a rising country. There's a lot of potential there. So we flew to Nairobi, which is the capital, this capital, where they have their main airport. And from there, we drove northeast about 3 hours to a town called Nakudu, which is where the CAM's base is located at. So we actually, the first night we got there, Wednesday night, we got there around 6 o'clock and right away just got to Nakudu, got to Nairobi around 3 o'clock, and then we had to drive to about 6 o'clock by the time we got there. And we were invited one of the compound families' houses for supper. Yeah. The next morning, us that went out for coffee. That was kind of the main group that we hung out with. I'd have a pointer. The ones on the left, tall guy, Shiloh, younger sister Holly, the girl with blonde hair is Lori. They're all siblings, and they are actually under AMA. So they were some of our friends that we had known from before, but we hung out with them. So they were. AMA has a compound in Kudu too. Got to hang out with them, and then the back there's two others. The girl, Mona, and then Titus. They're both from Arthur. They were just visiting the same time as we were. They were some of my CBS friends. And then in the back is Stennett Kurtz, be one of the missionary children over there. He hung out with us quite a bit. So yeah, we went out for coffee, and then after that we went souvenir shopping, which was very fun. Us guys went shopping for various stuff like wooden animals that they hand carve, while the girls went shopping for fabric. Yeah, I think they had fun, but we had fun as well. I loved it. All the bargaining, and it was very fun. I wish we'd do more of it over here. I guess we have Facebook Marketplace, but that's about it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Very good cultural experience. The next day we went to a crater. It was Menengai, sorry, crater. Uh, Supposedly, what is behind us was at one time a volcano that erupted. Um, it was a massive crater. It's beautiful. You were very high up. I guess there's other people in that picture too. Yeah, I didn't know all of them either. The one second from the right girl is actually, some of you would know Stan Isley, his daughter Kathy, and the one on the far left would also be their daughter. So yeah, we had another picture. We had a picnic lunch up there. It was just stunning view. A lot of fun. Then that weekend, we actually went on a safari. A lot of fun. A terrible quality picture, but hopefully you can see. We're posing by one of the trees, the many trees, beautiful trees that are there, and the Land Cruiser. So in the mornings, they actually have a bunch of hot air balloons that um, you can pay a fee and they'll take you up to watch the sunrise. Really cool. We didn't do that because it costs a lot, but it's fun to watch other people to do it. Had a beautiful sunrise. Got to see a lion. A little bit more close-up picture. Some elephants or heffalumps, as I call them, and giraffes, and a cheetah. We saw a lot of other stuff, but these are some of the animals. The cheetah was, so the way it works on a tour, or in a place like this, there's a whole bunch of cruisers out there with tour guides, and they basically communicate with each other to let each other know where the animals are at, or the more popular animals that people want to see. So some people had spotted a cheetah that was starting to stalk some animals, and so we went over there, and the cheetah will use the cruisers as cover to stalk its prey. And this cheetah actually came right beside our cruiser. It's so cool. The girl on the way end of the cruiser, sitting on the way end, it was like directly below her. It's pretty crazy. She was like within 3 feet of it. So it's a wild cheetah. It's not penned in or anything. Yeah, stunning views as well. You can just see for miles. Beautiful. A little bit better picture of the group we were with. But as you can see in that picture, you can just see for miles. The open prairie. I loved it. And I think that was the last slide. So that was the weekend. Sunday, we went to Cam's church there in Nikudu and participated there. What? Okay, it was AMA church. Dad had the message, and the guy we were with had the guy we went over with had devotional. So it was fun to interact with the church there. Then actually that afternoon, one of the families there, Kurt's family, they have the neighborhood children come over for kind of a kids club, and they thought it was a brilliant idea to get us Americans to lead out in that and be in charge. So we had fun doing that. It was a good experience. We acted out Jonah in the Whale skit for them, which very much amused them. We colored some, and then we played soccer, played a whole bunch of football. And then Sunday evening, we had just time of singing and prayer with CAM staff. So that was very much enjoyable. Yeah, that I guess concludes most of the first part of the week. And I guess if you have any questions, I'll let maybe just save them, and then when Dad's up here, you can maybe ask him.
So my part that I'm going to be talking about is our second week, and it started Monday morning, very early. We got ready and left. It was a drive up. So that was about 3 hours, and flew in a very small, hot plane. It was a Kenyan plane, and it was very scary. We took up. I think there was night bus, and we took up about half the plane. So it was really small. I was very thankful when we landed. Um, and we just settled in that day. Got to our we flew up to Turkana County, and then I think if I'm correct, the town that we stayed at was Kasumu. So had a little bit of a drive. Um, and the weather up there is very different from where the Kurtzes lived. The Kurtzes, it was warm, but it was very pleasant and things. Um, it got a little bit chilly. So, but not here. Out in Tarracona County, it's very close to the equator, and it was hot. It was just sand and blue sky, and very, very, very hot. Um, so yeah, this picture over here, dust rolling everywhere, typical, very typical. At our on Tuesday, we went to Abat Village. It was a school. Friday, and the teachers come in. I chatted with the one teacher for a long time, and she actually sleeps there Monday, uh, Friday, and then she goes home back to the city. The month, um, all the bees, depending on how rich their husband, and it was also a sign that shows that they are married. So the more beads you have on your neck, the better. Um, so Jamila had like a little. They sang with her, and as they waited, they had a lot of sick children that were waiting for the medical camp. So we went to the school, and half of us were with the school kids, and the other half set up medical camp and took care of. They would check their vitals and then see what was wrong with them and give them prescription drugs, whatever. So a lot more came than could be helped. So that was really bad. But you can so much. The second picture, they were getting lined up for breakfast. We had so much fun with the children. There's so many of them. Me and Grant actually had a class. We taught, I think, school, and there was over 70 children in our classroom alone. Bless the teacher's heart. There was only one teacher normally for 70 children, and she teaches them well. Like, she has their respect, very much so. But it was loud, and it's very scary because you have an interpreter. They know some English, but we had the way smallest children, and they did not know very much English. So you had to break down your English for the interpreter, and then the interpreter would say, and so you had no idea, what he was saying. It was talking with an interpreter is hard. So that was quite the experience. We sang with them. They sang us some songs, and then Grant told them a Bible story, and then we just took them outside and played with them. We had a jump rope. They love doing like jumping things, either long jump rope, all the things, and soccer. Those are your two top things. And everywhere you go, they just want to touch you. The one time I counted like 10 children touching my arms, and it's enough to almost get to you, but it's so precious. Like, they're so happy, and they're just so grateful that you're there. Um, they very much love when the American. This is after our classes were done. Luke had brought some, I think 101 Bible story books. Were they in their language? So we passed them out, and they were overjoyed. They were so happy to have something that's their own, and it was brand new. So all of the children got some. So that was really fun, handing them out and seeing the joy on their faces, even on the little. They didn't even want to put them down while they were eating lunch, or they definitely hid them away and were very treasured. This was probably one of my favorite parts of the day. I got to help with breakfast, so it was just kind of like a mash of like, I don't even know, kind of like oatmeal, but like not oatmeal. It was made with like corn, just like powdered, and it smelled a little disgusting, but it was so fun to they had little cups, and they would very little children would come up and just like hold their cup up, and then you would give them some, fill it all the way to the top. They could just drink it. Be clean. And then for lunch, they had all kinds of things, and it took a lot to prep. I was the slowest one there. They were all very talented and could chop veggies like crazy. And then I also got to help with the assembly line. So that was really fun. I had no idea what they were saying half the time because I didn't understand their language, but it was fun seeing them converse. Like, they're just normal people, and they have their funny, like sometimes they would just burst out in laughter and just yak and yak and yak, and we had no idea. They were probably laughing at us, but like, you just don't know, and so you do your thing, and they're very happy to let you help. Like, they love when we help. So this was really interesting. So it was a specialty. They killed 2 goats for us. The one was for the children. So this school has the only reason that kids come to this school is because they feed them. Otherwise, they're like, why would they come to school if they get nothing out of it? Because Kenyans are very much, they like to get things out of what they do. Otherwise, why would you do them? So they give them a meal for breakfast every morning and then lunch. But often it's just rice and some type of like beans, and I don't even think they get the slaw normally. So normally there's no meat, but the day that we came, they all got a little tiny, like it was probably about this big piece of meat, and it was a specialty. So there he is hacking away at the goat. So he's just hacking it up so that they can cook it down, bones and everything. And so that was very unique. I could have put another picture on that was Dad's favorite. That was in a wheelbarrow. All the things that we were gonna eat were just in there. But you don't think about that. And it was actually really good for the most part. We ate almost everything that was on the goat, and so some of it was not great, but they know how to season, or they know how to cook their vegetables very well. So that was really fun, eating some of their food. These were the ladies that were prepping it, and it was so fun to watch them. And the little children eating their food. This was very likely one of their only meals of the day. Like, they don't eat very much. I think they're so beautiful. Here they were singing, and they definitely don't believe everything that we do, but they know how to sing, and they sing well, and they know some form of worship. These girls over here are very young. So this was the difference. This was their house, and that's where we stayed. That's another thing, going over there is very confusing because you see a lot of very, very poor people, and they live very primitive. We traveled about an hour out of civilization just to reach to get back into their area, and that's what most of their huts are made out of. They have different huts for different occasions. They have like a sleeping hut. They have a hut to go in. The one with the tarps down here in the corner is for when it rains. I believe that's a sleeping one right down here because it was open. and it only rains through, I think it only rains part of the year, the rainy season. So you don't really have to worry about your stuff getting wet. And then this one up here, they had, it kind of felt like air conditioning on the inside because they had leaves and all the things. So it was dark in there, and it was actually very nice. It's kind of like a sitting room. It was like the nice. And the culture there is very much, the men have sometimes up to 5 or 6 wives, like very many wives. And so depending on how many, they all live in the same community kind of, and so they can have a lot of different huts, and then the children all just live together. So yeah, it was very, very interesting to see that. And out there, there's thorns everywhere, and yet they somehow make the most beautiful huts out of what they have. It's really incredible. This was their water course. It was very sad the one time. So we carried around our water because we need a lot of water to drink, and there was always children begging for water, but they advised to not give them your water, otherwise they'll fight about it, and soon you'll have 20 people fighting each other. And so you had little children begging for your water all the time, and it's so hard to say no, because who are we and why do we deserve water? And this little girl was holding my hand, and we went all the way out to her village. And I looked into her, she was sitting in her hut, and she saw me, and she got so excited, and she goes and gets her little pitcher and fills it with her water that they had walked miles and miles for, and offered it to me. And that was so hard, because I would have loved to give her my water. It's hard to know when to help and when not to help, and yet they're so kind, and they just want to be generous too. So that was really precious. And this was still at the school, so we did a lot of either teaching and singing. I think Shiloh's trying to teach them a song, which is really funny because they know a lot of songs, but it's actually pretty hard to teach them an American song. And then while we were doing the teaching and stuff, they set up a medical camp. That's Elmer, and he was, I think, taking vitals and stuff. So they were quite busy over there. This was the second day then, I believe. Some of us went to the Kakuma camp for medical, like we did the medical stuff, and then the others went to an Afghan, I believe. I didn't go there. I went to the medical camp, which was very interesting. So there was only one, Glory, she's down here, she's working on the foot. She's the only one. She went through college and is a registered nurse, she's RN. And so she's the only one that had experience with medical anything. And the rest of us were like, we just want to come along. And I think there was 5 of us, Mona and Kathy and Shiloh and Glory. So Shiloh was like, he knows the culture and stuff, so he was crowd control, kept people calm, and only one person coming in at a time. And then me and Kathy, right here, we had an interpreter, and we would take their very basic vitals, temperature, heart rate, some of that stuff, and then try to ask questions to figure out what's wrong. And we would write that all down through an interpreter, so that's also kind of hard. It took a long time, but like we kind of got the hang of it, and then we would send them on to Glory, and she would kind of figure out what was wrong, if they needed meds or not. Sometimes, I think she said this guy is the only one that was like seriously hurt. He had hurt his foot, and it was all festered and very infected, and it was very disgusting to look at. But she soaked it for, I think, about 2 hours that we were there, and then cleaned it and patched it up. So that was really fun to watch her. And then she would send, if they needed drugs or anything, she would send them over to Ramona, and then she would give them the drugs that they needed. So it was incredible. I think it was my favorite morning. We had no idea what to do. We were not medically inclined at all, and yet God could use us to help. And that was such an incredible experience. Here's Ramona cutting certain drugs for them. and the girl in the stripes was our interpreter. So, did very well. And this is my friend Glory, and she's the one that's over there, and she's using her. She could be over in America making lots and lots of money as a nurse, but she's over there helping the children and there. Very big heart. All right, and then that afternoon, then we went to another school. Us girls, I think we went in up there's a classroom, and we had a lot of kids in there, and then we taught them a song. Tyler did a Bible story for them, and then the boys went out and played soccer. All afternoon pretty much, and then us girls did jump roping with the other girls, and it was a very enjoyable day. Yeah, out with. I think it was a Sudanese school that we went to, right? It was very fun. And then this was our last morning. We went to a basket shop, and that was really fun. The ladies were right there. They would bargain like crazy and try to get you over to their basket, and it would have been so fun to bring them over, but we did not have very much room in our carry-ons. So yeah, it was very fun to just see them. Some of them were working on some things. That was very enjoyable. This was the baby that was just chilling right there, and he looked so happy. And Emily was very happy. She bought a lot of baskets, and that was her carry-on. And this was our group. It was us, and then the Kurtz's family, and the Kurtz were kind of in charge of the trip, so they did very well planning that. And the children were just so dear. Coming back from this was such a good experience. I came back and I was just like, why are we here and they're there? It's not fair. I just wanted to, sell all I have and go back and just help them and just give them everything. But I was talking with my friend Glory, and she's like, Kaley, that's not necessarily what they need. What they need is people to come in and like teach them and work on relationships, and not just come over there and give them clothes, give them food, give them water. Yeah, they need those too, but then they become dependent on you and kind of create this God complex of white people have money, therefore they need to give me everything. So that was something that I've been thinking about is, along with what Dad said, maybe we can't all go over to Kenya, but we can work here and we can work on relationships here and give whatever we can here. So it's a very good trip, lots to think about, and I feel like I left a small part of my heart there, but yeah, it's very much worth your time. I think that's everything.
Okay, thank you. The first week, while they were with their friends, we spent time at the CAM base. Generally, these meetings, we have a private meeting with all of the staff, giving them an ear to what's happening. And the first day that we were there, we also had lunch with all the AMA pastors there at Nakuru. And that was a very interesting time working together, collaborating. And this year, CAM is thinking of adding a few more programs there. One is the BDC, which stands for Biblical Discipleship Center. Has to do with training pastors and church leaders or community leaders. And so they were very excited to hear that. It's something that they already have the curriculum. AMA has the curriculum and is doing it with their own pastors in most of their churches. But this would reach other groups, other churches. So yeah, we wanted to make sure that we work hand in hand with them. Also, the medical program we're going to be starting there, and that is basically reaching out to some clinics, some far away, some nearby, and providing some medications that are hard to come by. And we have organizations over here that would love to donate if we have place for them. And so that's what we're trying to work at, making that connection. That evening, we did spend some time with Michael Yoder, which was 3 siblings, their parents. I had served with them at Faith Mission Home. They are serving in Lamp and Light under AMA there with the Lamp and Light courses. And so that was enjoyable to see what they're doing and hear what's happening in their lives. One thing that's exciting to hear, and that is part of the reason, too, in reaching up to the refugee camps is the increase that Lamp and Light is getting in their Bible study courses from these refugee camps, which is quite noteworthy because there's a high concentration of Muslims in those camps. And I think, don't take me for certain, but I was thinking he said there was nearly a 40% increase just in the past year. So that's a substantial amount of Bible study courses in the thousands that are going up there. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons, too, why we were up there to make some more connections. On Friday, we had our team meeting. That's with all the staff there at CAM and just trying to restructure and seeing what needs to, with a couple more additional families there, how we're going to structure things. And then we also had a special noon lunch that all the workers, the national workers, were there, and we could meet and talk and interact with them. A few Kenyan ladies came and made us a traditional Kenyan meal, so that was very good. On Saturday, I went with 2 of the staff guys, and they took me just to the local national park there. And so I got to see a few things. I didn't see all of the top 5 elephant, but we did see a really big snake. I wish I could have got a good picture of it, but it was probably, I don't know how much of a snake sticks out of water when it's swimming, but there was about 10 feet out of water. So I don't know how long the whole thing was, but it was probably this big. But we couldn't get close enough to see it exit the pond or whatever. That was unfortunate. Anyhow, so that evening we took the staff out and had some time of sharing, and it was good just to get to know the staff a little bit better. Probably the biggest programs that CAM has in Kenya is the Support a Orphan program, and I would say it's in the neighborhood of 500 some orphans there, as I recall. And that provides food, some clothing, and some funds to help with their schooling. And so I know in the past, probably about 10 years ago, there was quite a bit of fraud involved there, so we've been actively lowering our numbers and with higher accountability to make sure that things are as accurate as we can. Also, we do have widows, a lot of Support a Widow program recipients there, and Project Good Samaritan, which Project Good Samaritan is for fires or unexpected medical emergencies or just some high crises things that they just simply have no way of doing anything about it unless they get some outside help. And in general, I would say, while there's always a need for critical aid here and there, I think Kenya is now far enough past the civil wars that they had that predominantly they're coming more into the chronic aid, where we look at sustainability, as Kaley mentioned, teaching, those type of programs that we're pushing more and more instead of aid distribution. So that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of personnel and funds to do so. And so pray for the work in that area. It's not always easier. Actually, it's easier to just hand out food and be done. The long-term things take just a lot more effort and, discernment how to help in a way that does not create dependency. The time up in Turkana County was just really amazing to me. They are very, very tough people. It's just the heat and the dust is just incomprehensible. Just all the time. They live very hard lives. I know some of the the medical staff just said a lot of the ladies seem to be almost unemotional, and I would guess it comes from years and years of hardship and in the home situations of being multiple wives in a family and just a lot of things that they encounter. But this particular school, we have been helping out. They needed to start with grade 1 because there was no school in the area for I don't know how many miles. And so this is now the 3rd year. They're in grade 3. They're adding a grade every year. I had grade 3, and there were probably a few 15, 16-year-olds in there. And one of the reasons too, as Kaley mentioned, food brings them there, and they can learn how to read. Their parents don't necessarily often, they don't know how to read, so why do their children need to know how to read? Another thing that this is also doing is by keeping food there, they tend to stay in school longer. And therefore, the child brides of 9 and 10-year-olds get kind of pushed out till at least early teens. And so that's part of the reason why they're doing that, to try and push that out a little bit more. The refugee camps, I have before been in refugee camps, but never in a camp that is this size. I think the Kakuma camps are either the 2nd or the 3rd largest in the world. Just to give you a perspective, there are between 300,000 and 400,000 there. So South Bend has a little over 100,000 in population. So think 3 South Bends in refugee camps. It's just tremendously huge, and you go in there and you can almost like, what can you do? And some of these people have been there for 13 years already because they cannot go to their homes. Some of the one morning was especially kind of, I don't know, just mind-blowing to me. We sat in a tent with Afghanis that escaped just since the Taliban took over, 2 years ago, when Biden pulled out, when we had the other, some coming to the United States. Some of those left, probably 4 out of the 10 men that we were sitting with were sitting there with degrees, and some of them had bachelor's degrees. 4 years ago, they had their wealthy houses, good lives. Now they're sitting in a hot tent, and they're wondering what to do. They're, maybe baking a little bit of roti to try and make a couple bucks or something. It's just hard to, and how do you encourage them and help them? And had some good conversations, but it's just sad. So, that was a few things that we encountered there. And again, it's not like we are doing anything, giving any aid or anything like that in the refugee camps. Basically, we're just making some small contacts, either through Lamp and Light or then on our own, and giving spiritual literature, Bible stories in their language. It was very interesting to see their eyes light up when they saw their language. A lot of the other education, other things are, maybe in English or some other, but when they saw Farsi, they were just like, wow, they can read this, Probably just like, I don't know, you'd see a pamphlet in Pennsylvania Dutch that you haven't seen for 20 years. I don't know. But yeah, that was exciting to see. So I guess that was, I'll wrap it up with that. Continue to pray for the work of CAM and also of AMA. There are many churches over there. They're normal people. They encounter a lot of dark things, people losing out and leaving. And so, yeah, it's real. And so let's pray for the work there in Kenya. I'll just open it real briefly. If there's any questions, I can't guarantee I'll answer. I can answer them. Yes. Good question. So what happened is they, like the ones I talked to, they escaped to Iran. Then Iran forced them to apply for asylum in an international, probably the UNICEF or something like that. And then they shipped them to Dubai and to Dubai to Kenya because that's a big camp. And so there's a whole melting pot of Sudanese and Ethiopians and other countries around Chad, Burundi. But yeah, the Afghans, they mentioned some of the what do you call it, discrimination against them because they are not black. They're actually fairly light brown. And so people call them white, and they charge them more for anything that they want to buy. And they're refugees. I mean, they keep telling them, we're here and don't want to be. But I asked, like, the one man, so you have a sister at home yet? Why are you here and she's not? Well, he said, we can't afford to all go because it cost me $2,000 to escape, and the Taliban targets the men first. He would have, generally anybody who was involved with any American company is targeted and either imprisoned or then just simply they disappear. And so he said, it's not safe for me to go back. I'd probably be caught soon. But they don't, it's dangerous for my wife, for my sister as well, but so far they've not been caught. Yeah. Anybody else? Well, Sudan has been having an ongoing civil war for over 20 years. And so sometimes when a genocide happens, if one of these comes in and starts killing everybody, people flee. They just flee into another country. And they know at least at a refugee camp, they can get help. Not much, but it's a tent and it's food. The UN provides food for them, a small amount. And be careful. When I was doing a little research, I came across a UN report from them. And if you read the report, it actually sounds like life could be pretty decent in those camps. But that's a far cry from what I saw with my own eyes. So be careful what you read. It can. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to answer that. I would assume that wherever there's a large concentration of internationally displaced people, which are people fleeing due for all types of reasons. The UN comes in and establishes a camp. Like years ago in Iraq, they had some there. There's other ones in other Syria and other places like that. This was a high concentration due to the Sudanese conflict, also Ethiopia, and a few others. And so that has become a pretty large one. It just stays there and it keeps growing. It has actually grown in the past 5 years. So now even Afghanistan, I mean, that's way away. I don't know. They blew some in there. Yeah, there is freedom. Kenya is free, open. Kenya is actually considered a Christian country. So there's freedom in that. There's probably some discrimination, because it is a fair amount from the camp is Muslim. In the northern part, it's more Muslim because it's closer to some other Muslim countries like Sudan and Chad and Burundi and so there's definitely influences there, but I don't think you'd be, killed or persecuted. As a whole in Kenya, the Christianity that most people would think of is very, very shallow. And how would you say? Everybody tries to be a pastor, because the pastor's just looked up to, and he gets all the money because through the offerings, and there's always all kinds of corruption related with it. But everybody wants to be a pastor. So that tells you a little bit about the depth of. I say this very carefully. I was just there 2 weeks, right? So double check with other people who've been there a lot longer. Understand. Lamp and Light. Yeah, they have. Okay, so I'm not sure where their headquarters is. I almost think their headquarters is in Nakuru. And they employ quite a few people there. And I'm not sure exactly. I think there's like a multiple courses that they take through the mail. They send their tests and stuff back, and they get graded, and their final, they get a certificate that they completed the course, and I think a Bible. That is, I think, initially how AMA got started in Kenya, is they first were sending Bible courses from another country there, if I remember correctly. And they established that, and through that they started building churches, but that has continued. I wish I would have wrote down the amount, but I was thinking they had around 2,800 Bible courses that are going on right now, or people in the program, and I think it jumped up to almost 1,000 due to some connections with camps. That's about all I know. Probably only like 1,000 or 1,500. Well, all over, yeah. Nakuru is a big town. I was surprised. I was expecting a little town, but it's bigger than South Bend. I wasn't in Kisumu, so I don't know what size. Nakuru's probably almost Chicago-sized. Okay, thank you for your patience, and I know it's time to